This is a 36-inch Z-Line, it's a GRBIV model. I didn't find any videos about installing this, and I should have taken one while I was putting it in, but I didn't. But here's what some issues I ran into, what I found. All right, so I bought this from a local dealer and did not know that they had never sold or installed this refrigerator until they showed up to do mine. And they put it in the hole and left. And when I got here to look at it, the whole thing was shaking and rocking back and forth. Reading through the manual, there are two brackets called an anti-tip bracket that screw roughly here and here on the wall behind this cabinet. And you slide the refrigerator into those brackets, and that is what keeps it from tipping. It'll still shake. There are 8 more brackets to be installed. There are 3 on each side and 2 on the top. And it's this metal bracket. All right, so this guy screws to the side of the refrigerator while it's out of the hole, and then you slide it in, and then these screw to the cabinet box. And there's one roughly here, 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 and on each side. There should be 2 on top, but my refrigerator, so this refrigerator is 83.5 inches tall, and my cabinet opening is 84.5 inches tall. It may be that the leg should have been adjusted to raise it. I don't know. It's not something that I really want to do by myself, and I'm just going to live with it for now. But maybe that can be raised up. I don't know. But if it were flush to the top, this piece of trim would have mounted to those 2 brackets to seal that the same way it is on the side. I have them on the sides, and then down here along the side of the freezer also, and these little slots just clip onto those brackets. All right, so these are the templates for the door panels. And when you have your door panel off, you're putting this on the back side, but it says to line it to the edge here, to the edge here, and I did that. And when I did, I ended up with, it was at least 1 inch of a gap between the top of this door and the top of this cabinet. So that makes sense. If the cabinet was 83.5 like the refrigerator is, it probably would have worked out just right, but it didn't. So I had to take these panels back off, measure them. So I guess that's what I would recommend, is before you just use this template and put them on, kind of have somebody helping you hold these up to the doors and measuring and make sure it lines up right. But I feel like this cabinet opening could have been slightly narrower and would have had less of a gap. It certainly could have been shorter and I would have had less of a gap, but again, it may just be an issue that I need to raise the refrigerator. All right, one other thing is this template. They give you this guide for setting the depth of the refrigerator. Before you put these panels on, you're supposed to put this on the front and slide it to the correct depth. I think that's if you have inset doors, which I do not. And this would work if I were trying to inset this refrigerator, but I have overlay doors over here and I wanted it to match. So the one other thing I would recommend is, before you screw these side brackets down, I would put the panels on. So I unscrewed those brackets after I put the panels on, because I had kind of a substantial gap between the back of this panel and the face of the cabinet, and the installers had originally set the face of the bare refrigerator door and freezer door, they set that flush to this, and it made these doors stick out. There was probably a 3/16 gap behind it. So I unscrewed that after I put the panels on, and then I just started working it back in the hole until I got it to what matched these doors off the cabinet, so that this is flush. And so unscrewed them, worked it back in, got it even, and then I screwed those brackets back down and then put these trim pieces on. And then you have, one other thing. This is a template for the freezer panel, but also there are a center bracket. There's a bracket right about here that you screw into the back of this panel, and then you screw it in the edge of this door on both sides to keep the center of the panel held down flush. And so this template goes here and it's supposed to tell you where to line that up. But the way I did it, because again, I had to take these off and I had to kind of abandon the template and just come up with a measurement that worked to give me that even spacing. So that meant that this template was not gonna work. So I put the panel on the door and then I took the little side mount bracket and just kind of slid it where it goes, and with a pencil, you know, drew a line and then the center point, and then there's one on the center. So put the panels on, then put that in if you're not following the template exactly, so that you only have to mount that once and not move it. And then on the freezer panel, an issue I ran into there is I set it, when I put these brackets on that you can't really see that are behind here, I had it with this panel as high as it would go, thinking that I needed to raise these up to cover that gap I told you about earlier. But the issue I ran into then is that the freezer panel would cover this hinge. All right, it's not a hinge, it's some kind of plunger. I'm not sure what that does, but it would hit that. So I had to take this back off and readjust the brackets that are on here to get it right under that, so that I could get this gap exactly where it needed to be to match the side. And then I just aligned this to where this landed, if that makes sense. So nothing to tell you about the refrigerator right now. I've just turned it on and I purged the water and I just turned the ice on, so we're not making ice yet. And then the one other thing I would tell you is make sure if you're buying this that your plumber and your electrician know what refrigerator you're getting, because in the manual it shows you there are exact spots for the water and the power, and typically, you know, on a standard, either it's counter depth or freestanding refrigerator, whatever, the water would be roughly this high, power the same way. But on this refrigerator, there's a little window they give you for the water, and it's roughly in here back in the wall, and this power's roughly up here back in the wall. So just want to make sure you have those things in the right spot. Otherwise you won't be able to get your refrigerator to push all the way back. And that is all I can think of to tell you for now. But it is a nice looking refrigerator on the inside. I like the gray, I like the lights. These lights look blue on the camera for some reason, but they're not. They're white. Yeah, that's it.